Hi, so in this lesson I'm going to talk to you about picking. Now, picking is one of those areas that students most often come to me with problems and questions, and it's a stumbling block for a lot of people. So let's look at picking and where the difficult bits are and how you can approach getting better and more fluent with your picking. Now, I think the first thing to understand is that there are two divergent ways of approaching picking. One is known as economy picking or sweep picking, and the other is known as alternate picking. Now, sure, there are some people that combine the two, but for the most part, people choose one way or the other because they are kind of mutually exclusive in many ways. Now, I'll explain why that is and explain why each has its strength and weakness and why each has an application that's better suited to a certain kind of music. So let's start by looking at the difficult part of picking. Now, if you pick on one string, that's not particularly hard to do. You just pick up and down on the string, and with a bit of practice, you can get some speed going with that. It's crossing the string that is tricky when you go from one string to the next string. That's the hard part. So you're picking up and down the string like that, and every 2 or 3 notes you're going to have to cross to the next string, and that's the tricky part. So let's look at why that is. If I'm on a string, say the D string here, and I've picked, say, 3 notes, and I now need to go to the next string, I've got to get there in one of 2 ways. I've either got to jump over the string and then pick it in the opposite direction, or I've got to pick it in the same direction. So herein lies the difference between economy picking and alternate picking. Now, let's look at economy or sweep picking. The way that would work is I pick down, I pick up, I pick down, and then it comes to the next string. I carry on picking down. So what's happened there is I've done 2 downs in a row as I cross the string. Now that means all I have to do is keep moving in the same direction, and I get that note for free. So, and then the next 2 notes are reverse direction again. So it's down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. And you see, you just get that extra note for free by simply pushing your hand across the next string. And it's the same going up the strings or down the notes as it were. You go up, down, up, and then you can carry on going up and you sweep straight across the next string. So you're kind of getting a note for free, as it were, with the pick. Now that's very economical, but it has its limitations. It's got its strengths because you can get your picking fast up and down strings quicker with less work doing that. Because as you can see, the hard part, which is crossing the strings, is almost eliminated as a problem. It becomes very easy. So let's look at alternate picking. Alternate picking, you strictly alternate your pick. So I would go down, up, down, then I would follow that down by another up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So as you cross the string, say I go down, up, down, I'm not going to do another down because I've done a down on this string. When I go to the next string, I'm going to do an up to keep the alternate motion going. But to do that, I'm going to have to hop over this string with the pick and then pick up. So it's down, hop over the string, then reverse the direction and pick up. But what if I started with an up pick on the string? Say start with up, down, up. So now I'm on the wrong side of this string because I've picked up. So I have to hop over the string I've just played in order to get a down for the next string. So there's this constant kind of string hopping going on. And that's not as efficient as sweep picking. So it takes a lot longer to get fast at alternate picking. So now let's look at the advantages of alternate picking. Well, the advantages are twofold. One, rhythmically, you have much more control. So that's why a lot of jazz players like alternate picking, because it allows you to play with the rhythm. So you could go... Now that kind of rhythmic playing, which is really useful in improvising, and that's why a lot of jazz players like alternate picking, would be near impossible to do with sweep picking. Because it's only because you've got the alternate thing going as you're crossing strings and whatever you're doing that allows you to hit and miss the strings at will, therefore creating a rhythm. It's very much like strumming. So if you're strumming, you create that rhythm by hitting and missing the strings. So you're doing this the whole time, but sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, and it creates a rhythm. Well, it's exactly the same with picking. So if you do alternate picking, you can create many rhythms, and you can mutate and improvise with the rhythms as you play. With sweep picking, not so much. You could do it on one string, but as soon as you cross a string, you're going to break that up and down motion, which is like a drummer hitting a stick or bouncing a stick off a head, is going to be broken or lost, and therefore you'll lose the rhythmic continuity of something that you're doing, which might be, quite complicated or whatever. So that's one advantage of alternate picking over sweep picking. You can improvise with the rhythm. The other advantage is that, and it's easy to look at this advantage by looking at the disadvantage in sweep picking. Now, sweep picking, just to remind you the advantages of it, it's much more economical. It's a lot less work to get speed going in terms of linear kinds of runs. And if you were doing one note per string, you could never get the kind of speed with alternate picking in terms of playing one note per string arpeggios that you could get with sweep picking. It's just not physically possible to do that. So, as you might already have guessed by watching me play, I'm an alternate picker. Because I'm an improviser, I need to use alternate picking. If you see somebody do some incredible arpeggio from the low string to the high string, with each note having like one note, each string having one note played on it, you really need sweep picking to make that happen. It's not going to happen with alternate picking. So if you're the kind of player that wants that kind of line, then you really want to go the sweep picking direction. If you're the kind of player that wants the more rhythmic approach, you want the alternate picking direction. Having said that, I've, over the years of playing, found that there's always somebody somewhere who manages to defy any rule you come up with and do whatever you said wasn't possible amazingly well somehow. So I'm not saying it's impossible at all. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere who's doing pretty much anything you could imagine. But as a rule, for most of us, it really makes sense to go one way or the other depending on the kind of style you play. So let's look at some of the disadvantages of sweep picking. And here's a reason why it would be a major problem for me to use it. So say I was going up a scale. I'm going down, up, and another down. And then I decide I want to change direction. Just all of a sudden, spur of the moment, actually I've gone up to that note, I want to go back. Lo and behold, my pick is not on the right side of the string to just be able to turn and go back. I'm going to have to hop over that string. I can't sweep across it because I'm the wrong side of it. And this kind of thing happens all the time with sweep picking. And the thing about sweep picking is you kind of have to plan your lines before you do them. You've got to know that you're going to start with a down pick on this string if you're going to do 3 notes in order to have the down pick ready when you sweep to the next string, and so forth. Or if you're going this way, you're going to start with an up pick to go up the strings or down the notes. And as soon as you start getting into more complicated lines of mixing 3 and 4 and 7 note sequences, or jumping around from 2 notes to another note and then back to another, and moving, say, a little bit more of a complicated melodic phrase up and down a scale, then you start tripping up all over the place because your pick is never quite in the right direction for where it needs to be to do the next note. Or if you need to be improvising, you want to be spontaneous, you don't necessarily know what note you're going to play. Having said that, alternate picking can be better for improvising. There are workarounds for using sweep picking, and there's some amazing players that mix sweep picking for linear runs with mixtures of hem-ons and pull-offs when it comes to getting around the more complicated sequences. So I'm certainly not saying that it isn't possible. But here we're looking at picking every note and concentrating specifically on picking and therefore alternate picking. Again, jumping big distances across strings. If you're repeatedly jumping across strings, then it's going to be easier to alternate. So that's the other great thing about alternate picking, is that you don't have to plan out anything you're doing. So you can change direction at any time. So I could be going up the strings, and at any time I could just decide to change direction or do whatever I feel like doing in an improvised way in the moment, which if I was sweep picking, I'd constantly be tripping myself up because I'd find that I wasn't in the right picking direction to sweep on the next string. So they have advantages and disadvantages: sweep picking, or economy picking, and alternate picking. If you're the kind of player who plays music where your solos are written beforehand and practiced as a set piece, then sweep picking offers you some things which alternate picking doesn't. Because you've worked it out, it doesn't matter about the fact that you need to pre-plan the picking direction, because that will be part of the way you've written the solo. But it does open up things which would be impossible to do with alternate picking, like very fast one note per string arpeggios and some other things like that. And it also allows you to get fast linear runs with a lot less practice than alternate picking. But the limitations are you do have to pre-plan things or you end up tripping over yourself. Or if you don't trip over yourself, you'll instinctively limit what you do, knowing that you can't get away with this, that, and the other thing. Just almost instinctively know that there's a lot of stuff you can't do, so you don't even try to go there. The good thing about alternate picking is you can go anywhere. You've got no limitations in terms of spontaneity and what you might decide to do, changing of directions. Any kind of line, however complicated it might be in terms of sequencing, is always pretty much as easy as any other line with the right hand. Also, alternate picking allows you to have all that rhythmic stuff happening, but it takes a lot more work to get really good at it. So now that you understand the difference between the two styles of picking, we can start looking at the details of how you actually go about practicing what you need to practice to get good at them. So that will be part 2 of this lesson. Both the strings. So that's one way of picking across strings, is picking down insides, up, down, up, outsides. You could do 2 notes, but it's a 3-note pattern, and it's going to be inside. That change in dynamics can be as powerful a musical tool as any other thing you do.